Subsequent to the indictment, as is the normal process in Georgia law, the grand jury issued arrest warrants for those who are charged.
I am told, this is hearsay, but I am told by a reliable source that Friday evening, somebody from Washington called the district attorney in Atlanta and said, you have to indict on Monday. We have to cover up all of the mistakes we just made with Weiss.
I am giving the defendants the opportunity to voluntarily surrender no later than noon on Friday, the 25th day of August, 2023.
And she said, apparently, my jurors aren't coming back till Tuesday. And they said, you didn't hear me. You have to indict on Monday.
I remind everyone here that an indictment is only a series of allegations based on a grand jury's determination of probable cause to support the charges.
And she said, apparently, my jurors aren't coming back till Tuesday. And they said, you didn't hear me. You have to indict.
It is now the duty of my office to prove these charges in the indictment beyond a reasonable doubt at trial. It is now the duty of my office to prove these charges in the indictment beyond a reasonable doubt at trial.
What you talking about, Lewis?
Hey, everybody, it's Everett with Ohio for Freedom. Hello, hello, hello. It is Monday. It is 9 o'clock on the 21st of August. The indictment by Funny Fanny is frivolous. It is farcical. It is flimsy. It is weak. It is pathetic. It is a joke. It is sickening. It's junior high-ish. It's sophomoric. It's not even a lawsuit. It is to be laughed at, and it is not going to stand. We've got a lot of ground to cover, so let's get started.
I hear the sweet sound of freedom, and I won't be long.
The lawsuit supposedly that Funny Fanny filed, the farcical filing that she made last Monday, we're just going to go through that, folks. I don't know if you have read the lawsuit. It is absolutely a joke. It's not even a lawsuit. The lawsuit that Smith filed, Jack Smith, I said it was like a press release. This, believe it or not, is even worse. I'm going to try to move quick, but I'm going to ask you to please share. But I think probably a good way to frame this is a segment that maybe you've heard, maybe you haven't, but it was Newt Gingrich on the Charlie Kirk show on Tuesday, the day after the flimsy, farcical, frivolous lawsuit was filed. I'm going to play that, and then we're going to talk about it.
I am told, this is hearsay, but I am told by a reliable source that Friday evening, somebody from Washington called the district attorney in Atlanta and said, you have to indict on Monday. We have to cover up all of the mistakes we just made with Weiss. And she said, apparently, my jurors aren't coming back till Tuesday. And they said, you didn't hear me. You have to indict on Monday. And she said, well, they're not going to get here before noon. They said, it doesn't matter. She said, this means it's going to be 8 or 9 or 10 o'clock at night. They said, it doesn't matter. We need the news media shifting.
Who made that phone call?
We don't know. And I'm telling you up front, this is hearsay, but it's from a person who has remarkably good sources.
I totally believe it, though, because that would explain why they leaked and they messed up on the clerk document, why she was exhausted, and why they had the 11 p.m. press conference, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, I am going to go through a few select clips to just illustrate how ridiculous this lawsuit against President Trump is. But let's talk about what we just heard. First of all, credibility. Does Newt Gingrich have credibility? I think so. Former Speaker of the House. He was Speaker of the House and presided as such the only time that we have balanced the budget in my lifetime. He's a historian, very well respected in academia. He ran for president. Newt Gingrich is not given to hyperbole. And he's saying, I can't prove it, but the person that I am relying on has a great track record in what. So let's just take that at face value for a minute. The lawsuit that Jack Smith filed against the president, we've covered that. Everybody's covered that. He stepped in it. He opened up the door for the president by defending himself to prove what we all know to be true about 2020. And Newt Gingrich is saying that his source is telling him that Funny Fanny received a phone call that says you have to indict on Monday. And she responds with, I'm not ready. The grand jury doesn't even come back until Tuesday. What happens on Monday? The filing is leaked to the press, and it's leaked through the system. They later would lie and say, oh, it was a mistake. We messed up the save button from the send button because it was such a large file. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a PDF. The difference between a 20-page PDF and a 90-page PDF is like from 150 kilobytes to 330 kilobytes or something like that. So that's completely a lie. And why else would she make the announcement at what, like 9, 10, 11 o'clock? I don't know how much of this I can listen to, but I do want to play this a little bit.
Subsequent to the indictment, as is the normal process in Georgia law, the grand jury issued arrest warrants for those who are charged. I am giving the defendants the opportunity to voluntarily surrender no later than noon on Friday, the 25th day of August, 2023.
I can't go any further than that. First of all, and Lord forgive me, I'm being shallow. Does she have a spouse? Is she married? Who would want to wake up to that voice? Oh my goodness. I mean, it just screeches on you. But the thing is, they have dressed their garbage and their gobbledygook up in the form of a lawsuit. And the truth is, the president does have to show up by the 25th of August, which would be Friday. At this point, I don't know when he's planning to actually do that, if it'll be on the 25th or before. But when we're done here in just a few minutes, I'm going to ask you to do 3 things, and I'll share with that in a minute. But let's just look at some of the things in the lawsuit, shall we? First of all, I believe there's like at least 122 counts, and some of the things she is charging the president with is tweets. No kidding. On or about the 3rd day of December 2020, Donald John Trump caused to be tweeted. Man, he's guilty of causing to be tweeted from the Twitter account of real Donald Trump. And here's what he tweeted that is so dangerous. Georgia hearings now on OANN. Amazing. This was an overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy. He tweeted, Georgia hearings on OAN. Amazing. That's a further act, as an overt act of the conspiracy. On or about the 3rd day of December, he caused to be tweeted, wow, blockbuster testimony taking place in Georgia. Ballot stuffing by Dems when Republicans were forced to leave the large counting room. Plenty more coming, but this alone leads to an easy win of the state. This was an overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy. Folks, do you see what's on trial here? Free speech is on trial here. I'm here to tell you that in America, you could tweet, the earth is flat and it's not illegal. You could tweet, Georgia ballots are made out of green cheese that came from the moon and it's not illegal. This is absolutely nuts, but I'm going to go through a couple of more here. Then these are just a few tweets. People in Georgia got caught cold bringing in massive numbers of ballots and putting them in voting machines. So tweets are illegal in Funny Fanni'S world. Ha, 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 Funny Fanny. This was a Rudolph Giuliani tweet. He caused to be retweeted. Now it's illegal not only to tweet, but it's illegal to retweet because Rudy Giuliani retweeted. And this is what the tweet said. Georgia Patriot call to action. Today is the day we need you to call your state, Senate, House reps and ask them to sign the petition for a special session. We must have free and fair elections in Georgia. And this is our only path to ensuring every legal vote is counted. So calling your representative and tweeting people to do so, now that is an overt act of conspiracy. Oh my goodness. On the 3rd day of December, Donald John Trump met with Speaker of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, Brian Cutler, in the Oval Office at the White House and discussed holding a special session of the Pennsylvania General Assembly. This was an overt act of the conspiracy. So now having a meeting with somebody is criminal. Meeting with somebody is an overt act of conspiracy. Now, guess what else is an overt act of conspiracy? Making phone calls, because on the 3rd day of, that must have been a busy day, the 3rd day of December in 2020, Rudolph William Louis Giuliani placed a telephone call to President pro tempore of the Georgia Senate, Cecil Terrell Butch Miller for the purpose of making false statements concerning fraud in November 3rd. Guess what, funny Fanny? You can say whatever you want on a phone call. He's making phone calls are not illegal in anywhere in the United States, period. On the third day, Donald John Trump placed a phone call to the president pro tempore of Georgia, Senate Butch Miller. Placing the phone call was an overt act of the conspiracy. And then one of the counts, Act 127, it's a whole list of phone calls. The print's getting kind of tiny here. Stephen Clifford Lee placed a phone call to Trevian C. Cootie. That's an overt act of conspiracy. Number 3, Scott Graham Hall placed a telephone call to Robert David Cheeley. Folks, this is absolutely so ridiculous. All of these are people's names that placed a phone call to somebody. And you think that's a lawsuit? And we're not supposed to be laughing at that? I'm laughing at that. Let's read one more. Trevian C. Cootie placed a telephone call to Robert David Cheeley. And that's an overt act of conspiracy. But here's the one that I want to get to, because I've kind of covered this before, and I'm going to cover it one more time at least. It says, and this is count 29 of 41, and the grand jurors aforesaid, in the name and behalf of the citizens of Georgia, charge and accuse Donald John Trump with the offense of false statements and writings. And it says, knowingly, willfully, unlawfully made at least one of the following statements. She does this a number of times. She will come up with a count, and they'll say that so-and-so made at least one of the following statements. It's like she's throwing mud against the wall, hoping, praying, desperate that she can make one of them stick. I'm telling you, this entire thing is a false. But this particular act is referencing the very phone call that we've talked about, the 45-minute long call that had Mark Meadows, two of the president's attorneys on, the president himself, and Brad Ratzenberger, and his attorney, Ryan Germany. I've gone through that in some depth, but I have decided I'm going to take one more look at it, because they're using that very phone call that Ratzenberger lied about it. And I haven't heard too many people talk about this. Before I do, I'm going to play this clip. I don't know how many people follow Elijah Streams. I really appreciate Steve Schultz and Elijah Streams and the crew there. I tune in regularly, but as soon as I read this farcical, frivolous filing that was made by Funny Fanny from the state of Georgia, I remembered something that Andrew Whalen had said about a dream that he had. I believe it was July 20th of this year. And Andrew Whalen has a lot of credibility with me, but I'm going to play this, and then I want to talk about it here.
Dream I just had July 20th, 2023. I was watching in a dream. I was observing a massive storm and with a tornado, and it hit State Farm Insurance Company. So in the dream, I saw the storm hit State Farm in waves. And it hit it in waves, and then it circled back around. And I knew that this storm, it was almost like it had a personality of some sort, but I knew it had an agenda, the storm did, to utterly destroy every last function of State Farm. And at this point in the dream, though I didn't fully understand it, in the dream, I knew by revelation that this storm against State Farm was actually a storm against the deep state.
Okay, very good. Now, Andrew was very plain and clear to say that in this dream, this prophetic dream that he had, it did not represent the actual State Farm Insurance Company. In fact, in that same clip, he goes on to say that he has policies with State Farm, but and they went through a little bit of discussion and talked about, as far as they were concerned, it represented the deep state and the farm, which is, if you follow the CIA or know much about the CIA, they make reference to the farm where I guess they train their their ops and their agents and so forth. But I remembered that clip that I had heard, and I couldn't help but make some kind of a connection, because in the lawsuit that Fannie filed farcically, it references State Farm Arena more than 28 times. And so many lies have been told about what went on at State Farm Arena. We were told that there was a water main break. Well, there wasn't a water main break. We're not even sure if there was really a stopped up toilet, but we were told that. So everything had to be shut down. And in the lawsuit, one of the things that Fannie alleges as an overt act of the conspiracy is talking about the fact that they chased everybody out of State Farm Arena. And then once they were chased out, resumed counting, when even many of their mainstream media counterparts on MSNBC and CNN reported as such. But all of the shenanigans that happened at State Farm Arena, remember, they shoot everybody out. And when they came back, we've all seen the 4-panel video of Ruby Freeman and her cohorts pulling the ballots out from underneath the table. Completely normal, completely normal. You see the video where she appears, Mr. Zuckerberg, to be feeding the same ballots through 3 times. I believe that there's some real significance about this State Farm. I believe this is absolutely going to blow up in their face. I want to get to this phone call. I've covered it twice, once 3 years ago, once a few days ago. I want to go over it again because there was something that I missed out. And for anybody that hasn't heard it, this is the phone call that Secretary of State of Georgia, Brad Raffensperger, lied about. Immediately getting off of this phone call with Mark Meadows, Chief of Staff for Donald Trump, the president, 2 of the president's attorneys, Brad Raffensperger and Ryan Germany, one of his attorneys. Brad Raffensperger lies and said that the President Trump, tried to coerce him into creating 11,000 votes. So this is going to take a while. I'm going to please ask you to listen, because what is being lied about, it completely falls apart if we just listen. I'm going to play this fairly lengthy video and interrupt it about 3 times. Here we go.
Mr. President, Cleta, this is Kurt Hilbert, if I might interject here for a moment.
Hi, Kathy from Ohio.
Brian, I would like to suggest that just 4 categories that have already been mentioned by the president that have actually hard numbers of 24,149 votes that were counted illegally. That in and of itself is sufficient to change the results or place the outcome in doubt. We would like to just sit down with your office, and we can do it through purposes of compromise and settlement, just like this phone call, just to deal with that limited category of votes. And if you are able to establish that our numbers are not accurate,
you did, Kathy.
Then fine. However, we believe that they are accurate. We've had now 3 to 4 separate experts look at these numbers. These numbers are based upon the USPS.
And certified accountants looked at them.
Correct. And this is just based on USPS data and your own Secretary of State data. So that's what we would entreat and ask you to do.
Okay, so I'm going to interrupt right here, because I want you to hear what's going to happen next. This is Cletus, one of the attorneys for President Trump, and he is saying, we have asked you guys in Georgia, asked you over and over and over for the data that you're claiming your numbers are based on, because we've got numbers. And he's asking this attorney if they can get together and if this attorney will show him what they're basing this on. And please listen carefully, because I want to move expeditiously through this. But you will hear Ryan Germany, the attorney that's there with Brad Raffensperger, you will hear him agree to this if you listen closely.
Down with us in a compromise and settlement proceeding, and actually go through the registered voter IDs and the registrations. And if you can convince us that 24,149 is inaccurate,
listen
then fine.
close.
But we tend to believe that is, obviously more than 11,779. That's sufficient to change the result entirely in and of itself. So what would you say to that, Mr. Germany?
Kurt, I'm happy to, I'll get with our lawyers and we'll set that up. That number is not accurate, and I think we can show you for all the ones we've looked at.
Okay, I'm going to stop right there. You heard Ryan Germany say, we will set that up. He just heard what that attorney Curtis said and his proposal. Let's get together. You show us what you're basing your stuff on. And you just heard the attorney for Ratzenberger say, we will set that up. Now, he goes on to say, we think we're right, we think you're wrong, etc. But it doesn't matter. He listened to what Curtis, the attorney for President Trump, said, and he said, we will set that up. And then he's going to lie just in a minute here.
Why it's not. And so if that would be helpful, I'm happy to get with our lawyers and set that up with you guys.
He's happy to set it up.
Let me ask you, Kurt. Kurt, you think that is an accurate number? That was based on the information given to you by the Secretary of State's Department, right?
That is correct. That information is the minimum, most conservative data based upon the USPS data and the Secretary of State's office data that has been made publicly available. We do not have the internal numbers from the Secretary of State, yet we have asked for it 6 times. I've sent a letter over to Mr. Anulowicz several times requesting this information, and it's been rebuffed every single time. So it stands to reason that if the information is not forthcoming, there's something to hide. That's the problem that we have.
Well, that's not the case. There are things that you guys are entitled to get, and there's things that under law we are not allowed to give out.
Well, you have to. Well, under law, you're not allowed to give faulty election results. Okay, you're not allowed to do that.
Okay, so let's stop right there. This is one of the big cruxy is or multiple crux. If there's a crux of something, this is Ryan Germany trying to posit the idea that there are certain things the public can't know about the public's elections. That there's things he's literally saying there's things about elections that you can't know. Now, everybody knows I can't know who my neighbor voted for, but I can know if he voted. And I can know how many people voted, but see, they've got some evil satanic shroud of secrecy they want to put over it. But I'm going to let this.
And that's what you've done. This is a faulty election result. And honestly, this should go very fast. You should meet tomorrow.
Well, Mr. President, this is Mark.
Okay, Mark Meadows is going to come in here, and he's kind of the gentle professional figure, and he's already heard both sides agree to something, and so he's going to attempt to close it now.
It sounds like we've got 2 different sides agreeing that we can look at those areas, and I assume that we can do that within the next 24 to 48 hours to go ahead and get that reconciled so that we can look at the 2 claims and making sure that we get the access to the Secretary of State's data to either validate or invalidate the claims that have been made. Is that correct?
So that's not what I said. I'm happy to sit down with or have our lawyers sit down with Kurt and the lawyers on.
Okay, we got to stop right there. So you heard Curtis lay it out. We've been asking and asking and asking. You've been stonewalling and stonewalling. Let us get together. You show us what you're basing your stuff on. And you heard Ryan Germany say, I am happy to set that up. Then what happened? Who kneed him in the elbow? Who elbowed him in the ribs? Or who pointed a gun at his head? Who got to him? Because when Mark Meadows is trying to put a professional close on this agreement, he turns around and lies about what you just heard him said, which happened less than 3 minutes ago in the conversation.
On that side, and explain to him, hey, here's based on what we've looked at so far. Here's how we know this is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong.
So what you're saying, Ryan, hold on, let me make sure. So what you're saying is you really don't want to give access to the data. You just want to make another case on why the lawsuit is wrong?
I don't think we can give access to data that's protected by law.
Okay, he's making a false premise. He's saying, well, this is we're based on our stuff that's numbers on things that are right and true, but we can't show them to you. He's trying to posit the idea that, by law, we can't really be transparent and honest. And I'm just going to let it play because that's not true. That's completely unconstitutional. It's completely unethical, and it's wrong. But the president's attorney, Curtis, is going to come up with a workaround, even if it were true. Listen.
But we can sit down with them and say,
but
hey,
you're
we're
allowed
looking
to
at
have
this
a phony
individual.
election? You're allowed to have a phony election, right?
No, sir.
When are you going to do the signature counts on? When are you going to do
Listen to this
signature
pause.
verification on Fulton County, which you said you were going to do, and now all of a sudden you're not doing it? When are you doing that?
We are going to do that. We've announced.
To get to this issue of the
Now, listen, this is where Curtis is going to give a completely plausible and workable workaround, and they're going to imply that they go along with it. I'll just let it play.
Personal
Listen.
information and privacy issue. Is it possible that the Secretary of State could deputize the lawyers for the president so that we could access that information, that private information, without you having any kind of violation?
Well, I don't want to know who it is. You guys can do it very confidentially. You can sign a confidentiality agreement. That's okay. I don't need to know names.
All right,
But we got the information on this stuff that we're talking about. We got all that information from the Secretary of State.
Yeah, so let me.
Okay, I'm going to pause right there. So Curtis, lawyer for President Trump, has saying, okay, even if you guys have stuff that you think you can't share with the public, is it possible to deputize the attorneys for President Trump so that they can see this information, and they all agree that they could sign a confidentiality, but it is a legal workaround. And once again, Mark Meadows is going to come on very professionally and close the agreement.
I recommend, Ryan, if you and Kurt will get together, when we get off of this phone call, if you could get together and work out a plan to address some of what we've got with your attorneys, where we can actually look at the data. For example, Mr. Secretary, I can tell you, you said there was only 2 dead people that would vote. I can promise you there are more than that, and that may be what your investigation shows, but I can promise you there are more than that. But at the same time, I think it's important that we go ahead and move expeditiously to try to do this and resolve it as quickly as we possibly can. And if that's the good next step, hopefully we can finish this phone call and go ahead and agree that the 2 of you will get together immediately.
Now, Mark Meadows is putting a close on it. They've agreed, hey, we'll do a workaround. You'll deputize the attorneys for President Trump and show them the stuff. Now, I'm going to let this play. The president kind of has his say, and he's really kind of throwing it in Ratzenberger's face. But please understand this point. Mark Meadows has framed the discussion. Okay, you'll get together, you can deputize, you're going to show the data, and you're going to see sneaky Ratzenberger get off the call, leaving the impression that he's a gentleman, and they're going to agree to what they just agreed to, but that's not what's going to happen. I'm going to let it play.
I would like you to, for the attorneys on my side, I'd like you to perhaps meet with Ryan, ideally tomorrow, because I think we should come to a resolution of this before the election. Otherwise, you're gonna have people just not voting. They don't want to vote. They hate the state. They hate the governor, and they hate the Secretary of State. I will tell you that right now. And the only people that like you are people that will never vote for you. You know that, Brad, right? They like you.
He's telling it right
they
to
like
him.
you. They can't believe what they found. They want more people like you. So look, can you get together tomorrow? And Brad, we just want the truth. It's simple. And everyone's going to look very good if the truth comes out. It's okay. It takes a little while, but let the truth come out. And the real truth is I won by 400,000 votes, at least. That's the real truth. But we don't need 400,000 votes. We need less than 2,000 votes. And are you guys able to meet tomorrow, Ryan?
Listen to this.
I'll get with Chris, the lawyer who's representing us in the case, and see when he can get together with Kurt.
All right.
Ryan will be in touch with the other attorney on this call, Mr. Meadows. Thank you, President Trump, for your time.
Okay, thank you, Brad. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye.
So I don't know, folks, maybe I'm beating a dead horse, but to me, it is so obvious. Mark Meadows came on. Okay, Curtis, the attorney for the President Trump. First of all, Ryan Germany, the Georgia attorney, said, yeah, we'll get together. We'll show you our stuff. Then when Mark Meadows goes to actually set that up, he's like, oh, wait, no, I didn't say that. Then Curtis, attorney for President Trump, says, well, wait, if that's an issue, the confidentiality or the stuff that you can we be deputized? And yeah, so that's going to work. And then Mark Meadows puts a close on that agreement. President Trump talks a little bit. And then that is the expectation that they would get together. They would see all of the stuff. And then sneaky Brad Ratzenberger just closes the call. Oh, thank you, President Trump. Who was holding the gun to his head? What call was he getting from where? Who knows? But then Brad Ratzenberger then immediately jumped off of that call and called, I don't know, the New York Times or CNN or MSNBC or somebody and said, President Trump just called and threatened me that I have to create 11,000 votes, when the whole call was about compromise or offer and settlement. So I'm going to close this program, folks. They are lying about this. These people are liars. So I'm going to ask you to do 3 things, actually 4. Please share the program. I'm going to ask you to pray, and I'm going to pray right now. There's going to be, I don't know when they're going to get together. The president has to show up, and maybe he'll do it on the 25th. Maybe it'll be earlier than that, but the 25th is this Friday, and more than likely, there's going to be a lot of people there. And so I'm going to say a prayer, and I want to invite you to pray with me. And then I'm going to ask you to laugh. I'm going to ask you to laugh in Funny Fanni's face and laugh at the principality behind her and all the forces of darkness behind her, because this is evil, but it is not gonna work. And the third thing I'm going to ask you to do, I'm going to ask you to believe God. I'm going to ask you to believe that God is sovereign and that God loves America and that God is in control. I'm going to pray, and then I'm going to close out. Heavenly Father, in Jesus' name, I just pray over the arraignment of President Donald Trump there in Georgia. And Lord, I ask you to release angels of exposure, angels that will be at work to expose deceit, corruption, hypocrisy, sinister dealings, expose what's going on there in Georgia, expose any connections to Washington, expose any connections to any part of the rest of the country and other parts of the world. Lord, I pray you release angels of fire and glory, and Lord, protect our great president. And Lord, I pray angels of restraint move amongst the people that would be gathered there to support the president, that nobody would be baited and tricked into participating in any false flags. And Lord, show your power, show your glory. And Lord, we choose to believe that you have this well in hand. In Jesus' name. And Miss Fanny, I laugh at you. I laugh in your face. I pray for your soul. You have been pushed. You have been pushed into acting prematurely. You don't have a case, and we know it. We are not intimidated. Mr. Ratzenberger, you've messed up, son. You need to repent, but we are not intimidated, and your lies will not stand. Hello, we're MAGA. We're the people. We're not intimidated. We are not intimidated, and your false filing are not going to stand. And you go ahead and file in Arizona. Go ahead and file in Wisconsin. Go ahead and file in Pennsylvania. We ain't falling for it, and you will not be successful, because in the words of Mike Thompson, you have lost and we have won. And that's what we believe. Folks, I wanted to come on and say all that tonight. Please continue to pray. Please continue to pray. The Lord has this well in hand. Pray for our President Donald Trump. It ain't easy, but God's given him strength. He's going to keep it up. Until next time, y'all. God bless you. God bless your family. God bless the state of Ohio. And God bless the United States. And good night, Fanny.
I hear the sweet sound of freedom.